My name's Naomi. I'm 17. In the week my family went to a beach resort without me. I learned how invisible a daughter can be while sitting in the middle seat of her own life. For as long as I remember, something in our house tilted away from me. Like a picture frame, no one bothered to straighten. I was the middle child of 5. Logan and Sienna were the golden twins, same birthday. Same perfect smiles that made teachers say, "Oh, you too." Again, Eli and Maya were the babies with their gap-toothed grins and permission to be loud. I filled the space between. The way insulation fills a wall necessary. Quiet. Unseen. If you'd asked anyone to describe me, they'd say I was responsible. They'd mean I didn't cause problems. The unfairness didn't arrive as screaming or slammed doors. It drifted in. Small as dust. When Logan turned 17, Dad surprised him with a used Honda only 92,000 miles. Great condition and a down payment. Dad actually bragged about over dinner. $5,000. A steal. 3 months later, after Logan cracked the windshield, Mom wrote a $320 check without a lecture. When Sienna wanted to refresh her room, before junior prom, a stack of color swatches appeared on the kitchen table like a bouquet. "We'll do the accent wall in eucalyptus," Mom decided. Like she'd been planning it for weeks. A weekend and $1.200 at the home store later. Sienna posed with the new brass lamp and velvet pillows, as if they were trophies she'd won by existing. What I got was a $25 Target gift card, tucked into a folded napkin at a family dinner that kept getting pushed back sometime this week. Mom said. And the week slid by. Asterisk, asterisk. Weeks earlier, asterisk, asterisk. When that delayed dinner finally happened at Applebee's, the check came to $48. Should see. The light above our booth hummed. And the conversation orbited Maya's school play. She's going to be a cloud. Isn't that adorable? 5 minutes for me. How's AP Kim? 94. Then 40 more spent on everyone else. I'm clarifying the timing because that night wasn't the same day as the resort talk. It was the kind of small postponement that becomes a habit you plan to celebrate. And then you don't. And then you pretend you did. I should have known then. But optimism is a habit you keep, even after it stops paying rent. Spring break. Junior year. Dad scored a deal on a Florida resort. He said it like he'd won something for all of us. The brochure glowed in the middle of the table palm trees. Upbeat. A pool that looked like a mirror waiting all day for the sky to get interesting. I had never been to the ocean. Not really. Not in a way that felt like I belonged there. I imagined sand that squeaked under your feet like new snow, and the odd sticky feeling of salt on your arms. That night, I Googled best things to do in Clearwater and bookmarked a dolphin statue. I let myself have that picture for about 11 hours. The next morning, Mom cornered me in the kitchen while the toaster breathed and the dog yawned on the tile. "Naomi," she started. Too gently. "Your SATs are coming up. We think you should stay home and study." She said, "We like a bridge." I was supposed to walk across. "My grades are fine." I said. 94 in Chem. 91 in Calc. The practice test I didn't finish. Because Logan walked in, lifted the banana off my plate, and asked, "Does anyone know where my Navy swim trunks are?" He leaned his forehead into the fridge like the answer might be hiding behind the salsa. "Top drawer of the dryer," Mom said. Not missing a beat. That's when I understood. They were all going. Everyone except me. "It's only a week." Mom said. "Mrs. Keeley will check on you." She said, "Check on you like I was a plant." Dad added, "I booked Logan a half-day fishing charter. Birthday present. Just a little early." He said it to the room. Not to me. "The way you talk about weather. Sienna. That dance competition is the same week. Right? They do a resort bracket." Sienna answered, grinning into her phone. "Finals by the big fountain." Everyone looked pleased with the geometry of their calendars. Nobody looked at me. Eli, 8 and soft-hearted, hovered by the doorway with his cereal bowl and gave me a half-wave. Then pretended to itch his ear. At least the smallest person in the house had the decency to feel guilty. I went upstairs before anyone could pull me into a conversation I'd already lost. My room was the one they forgot to repaint. The old blue, the color of recycled paper, had a peeled corner above my desk that curled like a comma. On the bulletin board, The debate schedule was pinned under a bent thumbtack. My coach's note from last month. You have a cross-X that cuts hung next to it on a yellow sticky that had collected a film of dust. I sat at my desk with the laptop's glow on my hands and counted the ways I was not going to cry. For as long as I remember, I've kept lists. They make chaos hold still. They also tell the truth when people won't. I opened a new note and typed, When I made regionals for debate, we couldn't make the drive because Maya had a birthday party at Sky Zone. Ticket price, $18. 99. Plus sucks. R. When Logan called me background noise at Thanksgiving and I said, "That's mean." Mom answered, "Don't start." The gravy had a skin by the time anyone offered me a roll. Sienna borrowed my black flats for choir for just 2 hours. Wore them all week. And left them in the garage in the rain. Replacement cost $36. I paid myself. I could hear Dad downstairs, telling someone on the phone about the resort's all-you-can-eat thing and how the kids will love the lazy river. The dog barked at the mail slot. The house buzzed along its usual tracks. And yet something solid shifted in the back of my mind. A chair pushed away from a table. I should have known there wouldn't be a miracle conversation. I should have known no one was going to come upstairs. Sit on the end of my bed. And say, "You matter enough to reschedule." Magical thinking has an expiration date. Mine was this morning. Later. After the kitchen cleared. Mom stood in the doorway to the laundry room like she'd caught me stealing the house's heat. "You're not upset, are you?" she asked. The washer hummed behind her. "It's only a week. And you're always saying you want more time to study." She tilted her head. If I said, "Yes, I'm upset," I'd become the problem. If I said, "No," I'd become the solution. "I'll be fine," I said. She smiled. Both relieved and already elsewhere. Upstairs. I lay on my bed. Stared at the ceiling. And remembered 3 quotes that had lodged in me like splinters. First, Logan laughing last summer. "You're like our family's IT department." He'd meant it as a compliment. It sounded like a demotion. Second, Sienna to a friend on speaker. "Naomi's sweet. She doesn't need much." Third, Mom. On the phone to Aunt Teresa, after I got my debate trophy, she didn't know I was in the hallway. "Logan's swimming is really taking off." She never mentioned my trophy. Aunt Teresa had said. "And Naomi." There was a pause. "Oh. You know Naomi?" Mom answered. Which somehow meant nothing and everything. If you think this is about a vacation, you're not listening. It's about the way love gets itemized and how easy it is to misplace a middle child on the ledger. I lay there and pictured the resort photos before they were taken. Logan with a fish hooked on a rented rod. Sienna in a glittery leotard by a lit fountain. Eli and Maya with pineapple smoothies. I could feel the future captions: family time. Blessed. I felt myself go transparent inside those rectangles. I shouldn't have to earn space in my own memories. Night settles differently when you've decided something and haven't told anyone yet. The house sounded tinny. Like a song through a bathroom wall. I opened the desk drawer where my passport copy sat under a stack of essay drafts. Next to the blue pen. I never loaned out because it wrote the way I thought. 2 months ago, I'd opened my own bank account with the library job money, $1. 146. 82. Not much. But not nothing. I'd made copies of my birth certificate and social security card from Dad's unlocked file cabinet for the FAFSA. I'd said when he asked why I needed a scan. He hadn't looked up from an email. I scrolled through our family's shared photo album on my phone. There I was at 7. Holding a paper crown I made for Logan's birthday. There I was at 10. Off-center. Half-cropped. My hand on Eli's shoulder. There I was at 13. In the second row. Behind Sienna's homecoming dress. Each time I looked, I felt the same quiet instruction land: if a person can be edited out emotionally, the pixels will follow. The thought scared me. Then it steadied me. I didn't know what I was planning yet. Only that it began with reclaiming the part of the story that said I was there. The morning they left. The house woke up 2 hours earlier than usual. Suitcases thumped down the stairs. Dad did a victory lap with the rental van keys in his fist. Mom called out. "Did we pack sunscreen? Did we pack chargers? Did we pack the black flats?" "No. Those are Sienna's." In the driveway. The March air had that thin, hopeful cold that lies about spring. I stood on the porch steps. sweater sleeves pulled into my fists, and watched as everyone nested inside the van, adjusting their pockets of comfort. Eli waved too hard, his palm a blur. "See you." Nah, Maya squeaked from her booster. "Study hard," Mom chirped, like she'd ordered it off a menu. "We'll FaceTime," Dad added, as if service bars could fix anything. They didn't look back once the door rolled shut. When the van turned the corner, the neighborhood fell hushed, the way a theater does after the lights dim. But before the curtain rises, I stood there until the cold found my ankles. Then I went inside and closed the door softly, like I was leaving a sleeping baby in a room that wasn't mine. The living room looked bigger without bodies in it. On the wall, the family photos made a neat grid: the twins at state finals, the babies on their first day of school, all of us in matching sweaters on a pier from 3 winters ago. My head at a polite angle, my smile at 70% brightness. I stared at my own face in the frames and felt a strange, calm clarity draw itself inside my chest like a straight line. I should have known the story would come to this. Maybe I did know. Maybe I'd been writing this sentence for years, one small slight at a time. A person can only say it's fine so many times before the words rot beneath them. I looked at the grid again. I could already see the way empty spaces tell the truth louder than full ones. I didn't move yet. I just stood there and listened to the refrigerator hum and the dog's collar click against the bowl. The house breathed. And, for the first time in a long time, so did I. The minute the van disappeared, I opened my laptop like it was a lever that could tilt the house in my direction. I'd been sketching a plan for 3 days. But sketching is the polite word. What I had was a checklist titled "Proof I Existed and Who Stopped Seeing It." This wasn't about drama for its own sake. It was about removing the alibi my family used, without saying it out loud, that I was always here, tucked into the edge of their photos, available to hold the camera or keep the calendar straight. If you can't see a person, it's easier to pretend you don't owe them anything. Step 1. The wall. I carried the old stepladder from the garage and set it under the grid of frames. The dog followed, confused and hopeful, then curled on the rug with a sigh that sounded like consent. I took down the first frame, matching sweaters on the winter pier, and studied it. There I was, slightly behind Sienna, my hand on Maya's shoulder. My smile looked ironed. The back had December, Harbor Point, and Mom's careful blue pen. No year, no names. I slid a butter knife under the bendy tabs, lifted the cardboard, eased the photo free, and flipped it over. I held a Sharpie above the blank and wrote, "Small, and even present, but not counted." The picture went into a banker's box I'd labeled with painter's tape "House Potos Me." By the 3rd frame, my hands stopped shaking. By the 7th, the wall developed pale rectangles where sunlight hadn't reached. The emptiness looked like teeth missing from a polite smile. I left up anything that showed only the twins or only the little ones. I wanted the room to tell a specific truth: someone had been there and was now missing. At the staircase collage, lopsided school photos Mom always meant to redo properly. I slid a thin strip of paper over my figure in any group shot and taped it so the background matched. A stranger might think it was a design choice. My family would know better. Step 2. The albums. The linen-bound books lived in the TV console, bottom left. I hauled them out, each a different neutral that promised timeless. The first album's spine creaked like an old knee. Inside, the plastic sleeves made a soft tack as I turned them. I moved methodically, and the way you run a lab experiment so you don't contaminate the results. Whenever I found myself second row at Eli's kindergarten graduation, holding a sparkler on the 4th thash, sitting in a lawn chair at Logan's swim meet, I slid a letter opener under the glossy edge and coaxed the image free. If a page held all 5 of us, and surgery would leave a scar. I used a craft knife to cut a neat window where I'd been. By the 3rd album, a rhythm took over: lift, slice, archive, lift, slice, archive. The box filled with the soft sound of paper agreeing with me. I didn't rush. Rushing would make it look like spite. I wanted precision. The timestamps on the backups would tell a story later. This was deliberate, patient, considered. Around noon, I ate a peanut butter sandwich. Standing up sitting felt too much like forgiveness, and drank tap water from a chipped glass. When grief came in waves, I let it break and then went back to work. Step 3. Rooms. Sienna's corkboard above her desk was a shrine to her narrative: ticket stubs, A Fall Festival Ribon. Polaroids captioned, with gel tape girl gang. Late night fries. Found light. In the corner was a photo of the two of us at a pumpkin patch. Me kneeling to tie Eli's shoe while she leaned into the lens. You could only see half my face. The focused half. I lifted the pushpin slowly and freed the corner. On the back, someone had drawn a heart. I slid the photo into a folder labeled Sibling Rooms Remove. Logan's desk held a 4x6 of him and me on the day he passed his driver's test. The keys held up like a medal. I'd taken the photo in my debate blazer. Hair in a low ponytail. The way I looked when judges took me seriously, and my family didn't. He'd hug me then. Couldn't have done it without your parallel parking lectures. I stared at that grin now, trying to locate myself inside it. Then slid the picture from its frame. In its place, I tucked a blank index card, trimmed to size. It fit too well. Eli's room hurt the most. On his shelf, a dollar store notebook he'd turned into a mini album said family in crayon block letters. Inside, second grade handwriting, labeled each person Maya Cloud in play. Logan fast swimmer. Shin na dances. Naomi helps with homework. I sat on his carpet a long minute. The construction paper soft under my fingers. And then I did the same thing I did everywhere. Else removed only the photos that included me. I left his captions. This wasn't about punishing him. It was about not being the glue for a story that didn't hold me. Step 4 digital. Their passwords were exactly what I guessed months ago. Logan's 6-digit birthday. Sometimes with an exclamation point. I started with the family desktop. Then mom's tablet. Then the old laptop in the hall desk that still signed into the cloud by habit. I plugged in the silver 256 gigabytes flash drive I'd bought with summer library tips $29.99 on sale and created a folder called Nami Archive. I copied every image with me in it. Every video where my voice floated from behind the camera. And then deleted the originals. I emptied the trash. I untagged myself from shared albums. In mom's photo app, I typed Naomi into the face recognition field. A grid of my own life looked back. Select all. Transfer. Delete. On the family drive search. Move. Irase. On dad's cloud same. The progress bars crawled. Leapt. Stalled. Resumed. I watched them like you watch toast. When a folder fought back permissions. Sync errors. I took screenshots for a paper trail and tried again. This wasn't about magic. It was about patience and admin rights. Social media came next. Facebook album Harbor Weekend 2022 untagged. Instagram sibling brunch, untagged. Saved privately. Mom's Pinterest board family moments was mostly other people's holidays. I left those. The aim wasn't to make the internet sad. It was to stop being an optional extra in my own gallery. When the drive filled, I ejected it and slid it into a hard case I'd tucked in my debate binder. If anyone asked, it held evidence files. Step 5 paper. Dad's squeaky file cabinet. Second drawer birth certificates. Immunizations. Social security cards. Passports. I knew because I'd filed them after mom's organization weekend fizzled last spring. I verified everything originals present. My copies clear. I returned a set of FAFSA photocopies to the manila envelope labeled taxes like a dutiful kid. In my folder I kept what I needed: a clean copy of my birth certificate, my social security card, and 2 passport photos from the pharmacy $15.99 because it felt brave to imagine a future that didn't need a permission slip. Step 6. Logistics. I had $1. 82 inches my account, and $82 in cash. A bus seat to Portland was $146 if I booked for tomorrow night. A flight, even discounted, was $318. I chose the bus because I needed to own the pacing. Also because Aunt Rowan would insist on the plane if I asked. And I wanted to do the first miles under my own steam. I texted her, "Can we talk? It's important." She called in under a minute. "Where are you?" Not panicked, located. I told her about the resort. The study week. The decision I'd already made. Silence. A kind I liked stretched just long enough to mean respect. "Pack your bags," she said. "I'll book whatever you choose. I won't tell your mother until you're gone." I let out a breath I'd been holding since breakfast. "The bus," I said. "Tomorrow night?" I wrote a note and set it on the kitchen counter, under the ceramic fruit bowl. Won't be needing this. Next to it, I placed 3 crisp $100 bills Mom had pressed into my hand for notebooks or snacks while we're away. I took a picture of the note and bills and emailed it to myself not to gloat. Just to timestamp the choice. Step 7. The timer. I set alarms to keep me honest. 2, 1, 5 finish albums. 3, 0 devices. Second pass. 500 pack essentials. Set. 0 dinner, leftover pasta. 800 wipe fingerprints from obvious spots because they'd hunt for clues before they looked in a mirror. I washed the butter knife and slid it back where it belonged. I recycled the paper scraps from my cutouts because litter would distract from the message. As the light thinned toward evening, I walked the house one more time. The living room looked like a gallery mid-installation. The staircase looked like a mouth mid-sentence. In Logan's room, the blank index card inside the frame said more than any picture, "Enciendas." The corkboard's bald triangle would itch when she stared at it. In Ellie's, the little notebook closed with a whisper. I stood in his doorway. "You didn't do this," I said softly. "Not absolution. Just correct attribution. Right before bed." "Mrs. Keeley texted, your mom asked me to check on you tomorrow. Want me to bring cookies?" I watched the typing bubbles appear and vanish. I wrote back, "I'll be okay. Thank you." I put the phone face down and lay in the new quiet. It had a shape now like a gap on a wall. Like a cleared path. In the morning, I packed the last things, the blue pen I never loaned out, the external drive wrapped in a sock, my blazer, the folder of documents. I left behind anything that would make noise, leaving a lamp, the heavy calc book, the lopsided ceramic bowl I made in 8th grade. Leaving some things behind felt like telling the truth. The care I'd taken was already visible on the walls. At 9:05, I ordered a rideshare to the station. The driver, a woman with a keychain of tiny shoes, asked new questions about my boxes. Parking lots looked like maps without legends. I bought a one-way ticket for the 1030 bus to Portland. 146美元. The clerk slid it under the glass with the grace of someone who spends her days sending people away without knowing if they're running from or toward. "Platform B," she said. While I waited, I washed my hands in the station bathroom. The soap smelled like fake lemon, the paper towels shredded before they dried. I stared at my reflection long enough to memorize the before. My face looked like a person who had made a list and followed it. That counted. On the bus, I took an aisle seat, set the boxes against my shins, and opened my notebook. I wrote the time, the city, in one line. Leaving doesn't always mean slamming the door. Sometimes it's just not holding it open anymore. The bus breathed and slid onto the highway. We passed the water tower with the cheerful letters fading at the edges. I pictured the living room at home catching late morning sun, the blank spaces glowing like placeholders. If anyone walked in now, they would feel the room change temperature. The thought steadied me more than any pep talk. Around midday, Mom's voicemail arrived. Her voice bright and blurred by wind. "Hey, sweetheart, we're on the way to the beach. Don't forget to take breaks, Mrs. Keeley will bring cookies tomorrow. Love you." Sienna laughed in the background. Logan said, "This playlist is weak." A postcard of a message full color. No room for a return address. Later. A text from Dad. "You good?" 2 syllables that could be weather. I didn't reply. A kid up front asked his mom if clouds ever fall. "Only as rain," she said. We all turned to the windows like we might catch one. By evening, the station ceiling in the city was a grid of lights. Some buzzing, some dead. And there was Rowan near the arrivals board with a paper cup and a hand-lettered sign, "Naomi. Who matters?" The joke arrived with a hug. She tucked me under her arm, like I was an umbrella she'd been missing. "Hey, kid," she said into my hair. "Breathe." Her apartment sat above a bookstore that smelled like cinnamon year-round. Plants in mismatched pots leaned toward the window. A corkboard held postcards, quotes, and a photo of Rowan at 20 with my mother, both laughing into the sun. The room paused me. Back when she believed in calling things what they are. Rowan said, not unkindly. She put the kettle on and went quiet in the way that makes space. I texted arrived. The reply came fast, "Proud of you. Eat. Sleep. Call tomorrow, if you want. No talk of the resort. No study pep. Just verbs. We ate noodles with broccoli and too much garlic because that's Rowan's happy recipe. We talked about the bus. The kid with the cloud question. The bookstore cat who acts like he pays rent. I didn't cry until she handed me a pillowcase for the couch and said, "You can stay as long as you need." Relief has weight. It landed. And the floor held. The next morning the call started for real. 3, missed, from mom between 912 and 919. A voicemail that started fine and ended loud. Naomi. Where are you, Mrs.? Keely says you weren't home. Are you at the library? Answer your phone. A minute later. Naomi. This isn't funny. Then, Dad, call me now. Rowan sipped coffee and didn't look alarmed. You don't owe anyone instant access, she said. When the landline rang, the number only family uses. Rowan checked the caller ID. Your mother, she said. One eyebrow up. Want me to take it? My throat tightened. Please. Rowan answered with the kind of calm that makes people either tell the truth or hang up. Hi. Claire. Even without speaker. I could hear the brittle shine in Mom's voice. Is Naomi there? She's with me. Rowan said. She's safe. She's not coming back. Silence. Crowded with every plate, Mom was arranging for an argument. She's 17. Mom said. She cannot just disappear. Rowan's voice softened. She didn't disappear. You weren't looking. There's a difference. Mom tried the law like a door. We can call the police. And tell them what Rowan asked. That a teenager left a house where she was told to stay home from a family vacation to study for a test she'd already prepared for. They don't drag kids back to places that don't hold them. Rowan listened. Then moved to the window. Claire, she said. Before you argue, do me a favor. Walk around your house. Look at the walls. Open the albums. Check the desks and corkboards. Notice anything missing. The silence on the line sounded like a room being opened. She erased herself because you already did it emotionally. Rowan said. Gently as a scalpel. Every photo. Every memory with her gone. If you want those back, you'll have to earn them. Mom said something I couldn't hear. Rowan shook her head. No. It's not a prank. It's a mirror. Another beat. She's almost 18. She has documentation. She's enrolling in school here. I blinked. We hadn't handled enrollment yet. Rowan caught my look and gave a small shrug. I can make calls. We'll talk when you're ready to talk about what actually happened. Rowan finished. I love you. But I won't help you pretend. She hung up and exhaled. You okay? She asked. Okay wasn't the word. I felt lighter and sharper. Like a new pair of scissors. You only bring out for important fabric. She sounded, I said. Rowan supplied. Like a person who built a house out of explanations and just discovered a missing wall. She poured me more coffee I didn't need. You hungry? My body answered yes. That afternoon we walked to the public high school 10 blocks away. The secretary had peppermint candies and a haircut that said she didn't believe in nonsense. Rowan introduced me as her niece. We've got room in debate. The counselor said after a typing storm. Coach Alvarez will argue a signpost into changing lanes. We filled forms. I signed neatly on the lines that asked for it. I left with a schedule. A student ID photo where I almost smiled. And a permission letter naming Rowan for field trips. The outline of a life appeared not all at once, but enough to trace. In the evening, my phone jittered with messages. From Sienna. This is harsh. We didn't know about the SAT thing. You could have just said no. From Logan. Where is my driver's test photo? That was messed up to take. From Eli. A voice memo. Are you mad at me? 2. I miss you. I replayed that one twice and didn't answer yet. I wasn't going to aim my anger at the smallest target just because it was easiest to hit. Rowan and I labeled a folder, School Naomi. You get a shelf, she said. Clearing space. The world will hand you chaos. We'll hand it back with tabs. We ate rice and beans with a squeeze of lime. A record clicked every few rotations like a heartbeat. I didn't call your mother a villain. Rowan said from the sink. Don't turn her into an enemy just because it's simpler. But don't turn yourself into a lesson. Either. Be a person. That night, I lay on the couch and listened to the city buses exhaling. A bike chain complaining. Laughter. Bowling down the block. On the coffee table. My new student ID caught the lamplight. My name spelled right. And my face looking almost like I belonged to myself. I thought of the note under the fruit bowl. The 3 bills I'd left. The stair where my 5th grade portrait once hung. Back home. My family was collecting questions the house wouldn't answer. Here. Above a bookstore that baked cinnamon into the air. I set my alarm for school. Monday arrived with the sound of rain and the thud of my heart trying to keep up. Portland rain doesn't dramatize. It just shows up like a reliable coworker. I walked to Roosevelt High with Rowan's umbrella, one rib bent. Still functional, and a folder that had my schedule. 2 sharpened pencils. And the permission letter with her signature. The building smelled like pencil shavings and fresh floor cleaner. Which I decided meant someone believed in beginnings. First period. Attendants tripped over my name. My. The substitute tried. Scanning faces like weather maps. Present. I said. And wrote NAMI in block letters at the top of my notebook like it was a declaration. By third period. 2 kids had already told me where the best vending machine lived down the science hall. Second from the left. Don't try the one by the gym, unless you like disappointment. During lunch. I ate a turkey sandwich on a bench by a window that framed the courtyard's single maple tree. Leaves wet and shiny like someone had washed them by hand. I let the quiet sit next to me and didn't rush it away. Coach Alvarez found me there. As if the quiet had filed a change of address and alerted him. He was compact. Efficient. The kind of person who spoke in complete sentences even when he was only saying hello. You, Naomi. He said, more confirmation than question. I nodded. Rowan says you cross-X like you're peeling an orange clean. No waste. He tipped his chin toward a corner table. Sit. Tell me your case. I talked through the school funding affirmative I'd built over winter. My taglines like stepping stones. My cards clipped and dated. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned back. Arms folded. You're good, he said. Now, make it easy for a tired judge to vote for you. Put handles on your arguments. He slid a practice ballot across the table. A diagonal swipe of yellow highlighter over the word clash. Practice round tomorrow. Don't be on time. Be early. He left like the bell had rung inside his head. The rest of the day arranged itself into a map I could read English, with a unit on thresholds. Econ, where a girl named Priya rolled her eyes at group projects, and then asked if I'd join hers anyway. I need someone who writes things before they're due. Chemistry in a room that hummed like a refrigerator. Between classes I texted Rowan. Made it through. Coach is a person who weaponizes the word concise. She sent back a string of lemon emojis and good. Build a routine. Routines are bridges. That night we ate noodles with broccoli. Too much garlic. And the kind of silence that cushions rather than crushes. After dishes. Rowan pulled a storage cube from the hall closet. Desk stuff, she said. Inside a stapler that clicked with authority. A mismatched handful of paper clips. A small ceramic bird with a chip on its wing. Thrift store treasure, she said. Setting the bird on my makeshift desk, the end of the table nearest the lamp. For your papers. And your courage. I liked that the bird looked like it had flown through something and kept going. The next morning, I arrived at school 15 minutes early and sat in the debate room breathing copier air. The practice round took place in a narrow classroom with a whiteboard that still ghosted French verbs. You went affirmative. Careful but not stiff. During cross-X, my opponent tried to drag me into side alleys definitions. Gotchas. The comfort of tangents. And I learned to say. Returning to the plan. In a tone that wasn't rude, but didn't apologize. After, Coach capped his marker and said, your arguments behave. Good. Now name the wound. Give the ballot a reason to move. It felt like someone had handed me a slightly heavier instrument and trusted me to play it. By the end of the week, my feet knew the route to the classroom with the good light at 1005. Priya found me in econ and slid me a sticky note that read, in block letters, you look like someone who takes up space on purpose. Thanks. Later she added, there's a cart by the park that sells $3 potato tacos. Do you eat carbs? Religiously, I said. And that was that. We ate at the park. Rain misting our hair. And she told me how her older brother left for college, and the house learned how to echo. It's like the sound learned a new trick. She said. Yeah. I said. I know that one. The calls from home came in clusters. Monday at lunch. 3 missed calls from mom. A bright voicemail Naomi. How's studying, Mrs. Keeley says hi. We're getting so much sun. I hit delete before the part where she might say love you. Wednesday. Dad, you good? 2 words that meant everything and nothing. Thursday night. A group text photo from Sienna, her in a fountain-lit plaza with a glittery medal. No caption. Just the image doing its job. I put the phone face down and finished my calc homework. The boundary wasn't cruel. It was necessary. Saturday's invitational arrived like test pages slid across a desk the same. But not. I wore my debate blazer. The one that makes me stand taller without asking. Round 1. The judge wrote. Clear signposting. Speed manageable. Good use of evidence. Debatees. 4. We see you. Keep going. Round 3. I dropped a subpoint. Caught it. Rebuilt it with fewer words. The ballot said, recovery. Graceful. I did not win the tournament. I won something else, the sense that my voice would not leak if someone poked holes. On the bus home, Priya fell asleep on my shoulder. I didn't move. The city lights smeared like wet chalk. And my chest felt oddly orderly. Back at the apartment, Rowan had left a post-it on the fridge, lemons on the second shelf. When you need bite. Cut 1. I did. I learned that if you put a lemon wedge next to a pile of index cards, you will get through more cards. I also learned that grief can run parallel to accomplishment without canceling it out. I could feel both the hurt of the missing and the rightness of the doing. The trick, I decided, was to let them take turns driving. The following week, Coach posted a calendar. Districts in 4 weeks. State. If earned. In 7. He tapped the dates. I want at least 3 of you breaking. Naomi. Consider yourself drafted. After practice, he walked me to the door and said, in a voice that felt borrowed from a quieter room, Rowan told me you respond well to spare faith. So here's mine. Do the work. We'll get you out of here with more than a transcript. I nodded. The kind of nod that tightens the spine. At home that night, we did the practical math of hope. FAFSA. Scholarship lists. Deadlines that needed corralling. Rowan made a spreadsheet with tabs national, regional, ODDLY specific, and taught me the satisfaction of turning cells green. We emailed Darlene in financial aid at a place I dared not name out loud. Darlene wrote back at 8:12 p.m. with bullet points and, we love organized students. 3 exclamation points like confetti. I printed the email and slid it behind the ceramic bird for luck. Messages from home adjusted their posture. Sienna, can you please answer me? This feels extreme. Then, hours later, I'm sorry if I made you feel small. Logan, coach says I'm anchoring the relay next meet. Eli, hi. I got 9/10 on spelling. I messed up composer. He sent a picture of the test with a small frowny face by the teacher's correction. I typed. In my notes app, you always add an extra letter to the hard words. It means you're aiming big. I didn't send it. Not yet. I was learning that replies are scaffolding, not stage lights. Districts came and went the way storms do when you're inside noise. Pressure. Then the sudden clarity of quiet. I broke to quarters. Lost on a split decision where the judge in the middle wrote, Neg 1 on impact calculus. Coach shrugged like a person who respects math even when it doesn't favor him. Good, he said. Better to be mad at a real thing than a story. I ate a celebratory donut with Priya on a curb and told her about the time I mispronounced apologia in 7th grade, and the class laughed for exactly 3 seconds and then forgot. While I remembered for a year. Brutal, she said around a mouthful of sugar. But you say it right now. Apologia, I said. The donut tasted more like victory after that. And then, because life doesn't always space its events responsibly, an envelope arrived. Not an email. Paper. Thickness that promised either money or news. The return address, admissions. University of California. Los Angeles. I held it like it might be a small animal I didn't want to spook. Rowan came home to me standing in the kitchen. The envelope between my fingers, like a live wire. Want scissors? She asked. No, I said, already sliding a butter knife under the flap. The letter used my name 4 times at the top. In the greeting. In a line that said scholarship and award. And again, in a congratulations that made my stomach feel weightless. I made a sound that embarrassed me, and then didn't. Rowan whooped. A sound with history in it. And grabbed my shoulders. There you are, she said. As if I'd been hiding in plain sight. We celebrated poorly and perfectly lemon bars from downstairs. Paper plates. A toast with tap water. I texted Coach a photo of the first sentence. He replied. Knew it. Finish the season like you mean it. Priya sent a string of emojis, and if you get famous, can I have your econ notes? I laughed hard enough to scare the bookstore cat that sometimes visited our window. On my desk, the ceramic bird looked smug. I didn't check my parents' messages until the next day. Dad, your aunt told us. If this is true, if UCLA is real, we are proud of you. The if punched above its weight. Pride with a hinge still attached feels like a door someone might close if you cough. I put the phone down. Later. Mom, congratulations. Sweetheart. We're talking to someone. About things. We want to do better. The ellipses looked like someone walking across a room. Unsure whether to sit or keep moving. Graduation season at Roosevelt happened in a gym that smelled like lilies and pencil erasers. I wore a borrowed honor cord and shoes that didn't squeak when they called my name. I didn't rush the walk. Rowan's whistle lifted above the applause, 3 precise notes, and then, clear as a verdict. That's my kid. She wasn't my mother. She was my person. The words hit me like cool water. Coach shook my hand in the hallway later and tucked a bookstore gift certificate into my palm with a note. For the books that got you here, and the ones that will get you out. He signed it with an arrow that pointed forward. Summer became a string of shifts at the bookstore and bus rides to scholarship interviews that smelled like HVAC and nerves. I learned to bag hardcovers, so their corners didn't bruise. An older man came every Thursday asking for books where plenty happens, then read the first chapter by the window and nodded at no one. A little kid in a dinosaur raincoat showed me a rock with a white line of quartz and said, "It looks like lightning got stuck." I put it next to the ceramic bird. My desk became a tiny museum of objects that refused to be ordinary. At home, the group chat changed texture. Fewer photos. More sentences. Sienna, I started keeping track of how often I start a story with I. It's a lot. I'm sorry for the shoes and the spotlight stealing. Logan, Coach made me say. It was her day out loud when I told the team about your essay thing. It felt dumb, and then right. Mom, we have a therapist. She's making us list important moments for each kid. We keep getting stuck on yours. That's not a you problem. Dad, I bought parsley when your mother asked for cilantro again. We laughed. It felt unfamiliar and good. Eli, I made a clay turtle at camp. He has a hat. He sent a photo. The hat slumped charmingly to one side. I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. But one evening in late July, after a long day alphabetizing a shipment and a longer call where Priya and I pretended not to be nervous about the fall, I sat at Rowan's table and wrote Eli a proper message. 6 sentences. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the shape things took. You didn't make that shape. You did wave at me when no one else did. I miss you. Tell the turtle I said hello. He sent a voice memo back. Breathless, like he'd run to find the phone. Okay. I saved it in a folder called Family True. As August leaned toward move-in, Rowan taped a small envelope to the apartment door with a note, first week survival. Inside a bus pass. A grocery store gift card for $50. And a card that read, in her neat, stubborn script, when you feel like a ghost, buy lemons. They prove the world still has bite. We hugged in the kitchen, the tile cool under our feet. And she said, you built a life. California is just the next round. Remember, make it easy for a tired judge to vote for you. I laughed and then cried into her shoulder. The way a person does when a door opens in a hallway they built themselves. On the train south. Fields folded into towns. Towns into cities. Like the country was a fan opening and closing. I wrote a list in my notebook titled, Things I Know for Sure for Now. I was there. R. The wall told the truth. San. Some people can learn to see what they missed. S. I can leave and still belong to myself. I read the list twice. Underlined the last line. And watched as the tracks unspooled in front of us. Somewhere north, a house with a wall of deliberate gaps stood in a different kind of quiet. Somewhere south, a campus waited with palm shadows and the sound of skateboards on concrete. In between, there was me, clutching a folder, a ceramic bird wrapped in a towel in my duffel, and the steady, ordinary knowledge that I had not disappeared. I had chosen where to stand and then stood there long enough to see the view. By the second week, I'd stopped counting days since the bus and started counting steps between classrooms. Routines make a place, choose you back. I woke to Portland rain whispering at the window. Packed my folder with color-coded tabs, school, debate, money, and walked to Roosevelt with Rowan's umbrella that opened a little crooked and still did its job. The hallway smelled like pencil shavings and floor cleaner. Somehow that meant hope. Attendants still tried to give my name an extra syllable. Nah, my. Present. I said. Steady now. Priya waved me over an econ and slid a worksheet my way. You do numbers, like they owe you rent, she said. We sat near the window where the maple leaves shivered and took turns drawing supply curves. Between periods I texted Rowan. Made it to Wednesday. She replied, buy a lemon on the way home. Small victories deserve bite. At lunch, Coach Alvarez appeared beside my table the way punctuality does, suddenly and exactly on time. You brought flows, he asked. I held up the stack. He grunted, which I've learned is praise. You have speed, he said. Now earn clarity. Judges are civilians with clocks. He drew a box on my legal pad. Put your thesis here. Then never leave it. He pointed at the corner. Districts in 4 weeks. State in 7, if you earn it. Don't memorize the dates. Memorize what you have to become by them. After school, I stayed in the debate room until the copy machine coughed its last page. Cross-ex felt like learning to breathe underwater, unnatural until it wasn't. In the hallway, Coach capped his marker and said, Lo. Rowan tells me you respond to spare faith. He lifted 2 fingers. A small salute. I see the work. Keep going. It wasn't a pep talk. It was a permission slip. The messages from home kept trying on new shapes. Sienna sent a photo of her medal with no caption. Then, hours later, I'm sorry. Full stop. Logan wrote anchoring the relay Saturday. Coach says don't talk about it like it's about me. Growth is exhausting. Mom texted a picture of the living room wall rectangles of old paint like ghost frames, and underneath, we see it. We're listening. I put the phone face down. Boundaries can be gentle and still be boundaries. Saturday's practice invitational happened in a classroom with the ghosts of last year's conjugations on the board. I wore the black blazer that straightens my spine. Round 1. The ballot said, clear signposting, articulate warrants, breathe more. Round 3. I dropped a subpoint. Recovered. And heard my voice steady itself like a table with a new leg. I didn't win. I left taller anyway. On the city bus home, Priya fell asleep on my shoulder, and I let the rhythm of the ride sand down my nerves. Sunday night, Rowan and I turned the kitchen table into an operations center. FAFSA tabs, spreadsheet columns, scholarship links with names that sounded like secret passwords. She wrote headers in stubborn, neat letters. National, regional, niche. Nika pays rent, she said, highlighting a line left-handed students in public service. Are you left-handed? I can be for money, I said. We laughed, the kind of laugh that funds another hour of work. An email from a financial aid officer named Darlene popped in at 8:12 p.m. We love organized students. 3 exclamation points like confetti. We high-fived across the lemons. Monday. I arrived early for a practice round. Coach paired me against a senior who wore his tie like a warning. He opened with speed. I answered with architecture. Judge, here's the map. I'll walk you block by block. When it ended, Coach tapped the board. That, he said. Be a cartographer, not a tourist. He nodded at my opponent. He can sprint. You can build roads. I wrote cartographer at the top of my notebook and underlined it twice. The house back home kept talking in short sentences. Dad, we're listing important moments for each kid. Your page is thin. That's our failure. No excuses. Mom, I made pasta and forgot the timer and thought of how often I forgot you and wanted to apologize to boiling water. Not perfect, but true. Eli, I got 100 on spelling this time. I practiced while brushing my teeth. He sent a voice memo of the word composer said carefully. Like a fragile thing being set down whole. I saved it to a folder called Family True and listened to it twice. Midweek. Coach posted a calendar with meet dates and wrote break here in thick marker over the district weekend. He looked at me. 3 on this team will break. You're one of them. Prov me right. It felt strange and good to be given a burden and feel lighter. On Thursday, Priya and I found the $3 potato taco cart a senior had sworn by. The owner remembered names like a parlor trick and asked, red, salsa, or green? Both? I said, wanting to practice abundance. Priya licked a dot of salsa from her knuckle. You have this way of asking a room to listen. She said, is that good? It means you take up space on purpose. She said, people who love you will make room. People who don't will notice. I thought of a wall with deliberate gaps and a house being forced to read itself. That night I added a small thing to my desk museum, a pebble from the curb with a white lightning streak. Next to the ceramic bird, in the hard drive case. It looked like a catalog entry. Evidence a ordinary object that refused to be ordinary. The envelope came on a Friday that had already asked a lot of me. Thick paper. Return address admissions. University of California. Los Angeles. I didn't open it right away. I stood in the kitchen. The letter between my fingers. And counted breaths. Rowan stepped in. Clocked my face. And leaned against the doorframe like she didn't want to spook the moment. Want me to read it? No. I said. Then? Yes. Then? No. I slid a butter knife under the flap because I'm superstitious about sharp edges. The letter used my name 4 times salutation. Body. Scholarship paragraph. Congratulations. The word award glowed. I made a sound that was not a word. And Rowan whooped like someone who knows the correct volume for joy. She squeezed my shoulders. There you are, she said, as if locating me on a map I'd drawn myself. We celebrated with lemon bars that left sugar on our sleeves and tap water in our nicest glasses. I texted Coach a photo of the first line. He replied in seconds, knew it. Finish strong. Priya sent, if you get famous. I'm selling your old worksheets. I laughed so loud, the bookstore cat thunked off the windowsill and stalked away. Offended, I didn't open my parents' messages until morning. Dad, if this is true, if you have our pry. The little hinge in if creaked. I set the phone down before it pinched. Later. Mom, congratulations. We're working on things. I know things is vague. It's the best word I have today. I let the message be exactly what it was and nothing more. Graduation at Roosevelt smelled like lilies and gym sweat and the ink from brand new programs. I wore a borrowed honor cord and shoes that did not squeak. When my name was called, I didn't speed. I let each step belong to me. From the bleachers. Rowan's whistle cut the air. 3 notes. Precise, and then clear as a verdict. That's my kid. She isn't my mother. She is my person. The sentence lodged somewhere good. After the ceremony, Coach found me near a peeling baseboard and held out his hand. When I reached for it, he pulled me into the kind of brief, careful hug a coach can give and kept his dignity. He tucked an envelope into my palm, a bookstore gift certificate, and a note. For the books that got you here and the ones that get you out. Signed with an arrow pointing forward. Summer turned into a schedule of bookstore shifts and bus rides to interviews in rooms with too cold air and earnest chairs. I learned to bag hardcovers, so their corners survived the walk home. An older man showed up every Thursday to ask for books where plenty happens. Read the first chapter by the window. And nod like he and the story had reached an understanding. A little girl in a dinosaur raincoat brought me a rock with a quartz stripe and said, lightning got stuck in it. I put it beside the bird. Evidence B. The family group chat softened around the edges. Fewer filtered pictures. More sentences that tried. Sienna, I put a note on my mirror. Don't center yourself and it helps. I also owe you $36 for the shoes from choir. Do you want it in cash or a humiliating public Venmo? Logan Coach made me repeat. It was her day when I bragged about varsity during your essay thing. Felt ridiculous. Felt right. Mom, our therapist asked us to list 5 of your wins. We're at 16. We are embarrassed. It took homework. Dad, I bought parsley when she asked for cilantro again. But we laughed this time. Progress is weird. Eli, Hi. I made a clay turtle. He has a tiny hat. He attached a photo. The hat slumped to one side like it needed a nap. I wrote Eli back properly. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the shape things took. You didn't make that shape. You did wave. When no one else did. I miss you. Tell the turtle I said hello. He sent a breathless voice memo that began with the sound of him running and ended with, okay. I saved it and labeled it with a star. When the calendar flipped toward August, Rowan taped an envelope to the front door. First week survival. Inside, a bus pass, a $50 grocery card, and a note in her stubborn, neat hand. When you feel like a ghost. Buy lemons. They prove the world still has bite. We stood in the kitchen, the tile cool under our feet. And she said, you built a life. California is just the next round. Make it easy for a tired judge to vote for you. I laughed and cried at the same time because leaving takes both kinds of water. On the train south, fields folded into towns, and towns into cities. The landscape opening and closing like a fan. I made a list in my notebook, titled Things I Know for Sure for Now. I was there. R. The wall told the truth. San. Some people can learn to see what they missed. I can leave and still belong to myself. I underlined the last line twice and watched the tracks pull us forward. Somewhere behind me, a house learned a new kind of quiet and started to listen. Somewhere ahead, a campus clicked with skateboards and ambition. In my duffel, the ceramic bird rode wrapped in a dish towel like a fragile witness. Outside, telephone poles counted the miles. Inside, my breath kept an even pace. I wasn't disappearing. I was arriving. By the time the jacarandas on campus dropped their purple confetti for the second time, I was 20 and busy enough to forget to be angry for whole afternoons. The library smelled like paper dust and air conditioning, a cold, focused scent that made you sit up straighter. I knew which table got the first clean stripe of morning light and which vending machine pretended to take singles then spit them back like a bad promise. When a life starts belonging to you, progress announces itself in tiny, stubborn ways. A professor who spells your name right without asking. A hallway you can walk with your eyes closed. A cup that always lives on the same shelf and will be missed if it's not there. Rowan visited in October and made me buy lemons for the kitchenette. When you feel like a ghost, make something that bites back, she said, loading them into a bowl like bright little moons. I squeezed one into a glass of water and listened to the seeds clink against the sides. Some nights, walking the palm-lined paths, I practiced debate taglines out loud just to hear my voice own the air. I posted less and called home. In short, careful bursts. If you looked at the internet, my life was quiet. In my body, it was loud. 2 years slid by. Like well-argued rounds, wins, losses. The satisfying thunk of a ballot that actually listened to what was said. At 22, on a humid July afternoon between a practicum and a writing center shift, my phone flashed with Dad's name. I let it go to voicemail because some conversations deserve 4 walls and a chair. When I listened, his voice had edges. Naomi, he said, we've been in therapy. A pause. Our homework was to list important moments in each kid's life. We couldn't fill your page. Not because you didn't have them. Because we didn't show up to write them down. He breathed in like the phone weighed more than it did. I'm sorry. The apology had the shape of a real thing. I didn't call back. I didn't block the number either. Holding a door open is not the same as walking through it. In November, Logan sent a 12-word email. Subject, I remember. Body sophomore year. I hijacked your essay win to talk varsity. I see it. He didn't add a joke to soften it, or a request to finish the scene with forgiveness. I closed the laptop and went to class, where we discussed repair without erasure. My professor said, accountability that makes no immediate demands, note it. I noted it. That Christmas, a package came to the dorm front desk with my name in Mom's slanted recipe handwriting. I carried it upstairs and set it on the bed, like it might have a heartbeat. Inside 2 linen-bound photo albums. Gray tipping toward warm. On the first page, a title card in blue ink, Naomi. Beneath it, a photo I'd forgotten me at 3 in bright rain boots on a dry driveway, scolding a puddle chalk outline because it didn't stay where I drew it. In the margin, you insisted on wearing them even though it was 80 degrees. The next pages held images I had removed from our house years ago, reprinted and reorganized with notes in the borders. First day of kindergarten, your backpack bigger than your body. Middle school science fair, you explained capillary action to grandma like a sportscaster. Debate trophy, your grandfather would have loved this. The ink wobbled, where hands hesitated. I traced the air above the captions without touching the page. Then I closed the book and sat with the weight of being seen. Even if it came late, I didn't call. I sent Eli a postcard with a cartoon turtle wearing a scarf. Captain Moss says hi from the West Coast. I wrote. He replied with a photo of a snowman tilting. Caption. He's tired, but okay. I laughed alone in a hallway where laughter sounded bigger than the person making it. At 25, I was in a doctoral program. The kind where you learn that families are weather systems and repairs are forecast patterned. Not guaranteed. Family systems and repair. I told people when they asked. And they said. Like holidays, and I said. Like everything that makes holidays hard. I read till the highlighter fought for its life and sat with clients who said, nothing big happened. The sentence already broken into pieces. We worked backward until the small things were visible enough to be named. On my desk, the ceramic bird with the chipped wing stood guard on my hard drive. Next to it, the rock with the lightning stripe Rowan and I found on the curb. A tiny museum of objects that refused to be ordinary. Sometimes I emailed with Logan about early morning pools and the unsettling peace of an empty lane. Sienna sent a photo from a community class where she taught younger dancers their chaos and wonder. She wrote, I keep wanting to talk about my own turns. And then I remember not my mirror. Mom tried jokes. Sent your dad for parsley. He came back with cilantro. And a story about a sign. Dad sent articles about learning and unlearning. And once about forgiveness. Which I didn't open that day. I wasn't mean. I was on time to myself. We built something. Not a bridge all at once. But a chain of stepping stones. Each one had to hold before we stepped to the next. Last December, I went home. I bought the ticket without announcing it and texted from the airport, giving everyone 2 hours to choose words carefully. Rowan drove me before dawn, handed me a paper bag with 2 lemons and a granola bar, and tucked a note in the side seam. You choose where the wall goes. I promised to call when I landed. The plane rose through a bruise-colored cloud and into a clean blue that looked staged. I slept with my forehead against the window and woke to the gravelly friendliness of the pilot telling us the temperature on the ground. The house looked smaller from the curb, as if memory had used a wide-angle lens and real life preferred a portrait mode. When Mom opened the door, she put her palm to my cheek, the way you check a forehead for fever. Then seemed to decide that was too familiar and let her hand fall. Hi, she said. The word landing like a book, placed on a table without slamming. She smelled like laundry and apples. The hallway ran the same length but felt shorter. The umbrella stand was the same. The runner rug was new. The light switch plate was still crooked from the time Dad insisted he could fix it himself. The living room wall stopped me. Some photos had returned. Not all. The twins at state finals, Eli and Maya at a picnic where everyone wore hats, Dad and a son, faded shirt holding a fish he pretended he didn't mind returning to the water. In the center, a single frame with 3 pictures of me, stacked neatly with white space between age 3 boots. Âge 12 science fair. Age 17 debate. Tiny dates in the corners. On either side of that frame, deliberate gaps. Blank space as punctuation. I breathed out. Something unclenching inside my ribs. The room felt honest in a way that didn't require an argument. Dinner worked hard. The lasagna was slightly overdone at the edges, which I decided was endearing. We spoke like people walking across a recently mopped floor, careful. A little stiff. Alert to any slip. Weather. Traffic. Eli's new math teacher. Maya's sudden love of the clarinet. Then the air insisted and the conversation changed shape. Dad cleared his throat. Therapy taught me to use sentences, he said, and looked at the table. So, I missed things that mattered because I liked the noise of other things. I liked the noise because it made me feel useful. Hell looked up. I am sorry. Mom nodded. I am learning that busy is not the same as good. Also, that labeling spices matters. She held up a jar with masking tape that read cilantro, ? Included. We laughed, and the room shifted half an inch toward human. After dinner, Sienna found me near the staircase. The paint there had been touched up, A faint square showed where my fifth-grade portrait had once lived. I have a note on my mirror now. She said to the wall. Don't center yourself. I actually read it before leaving the house. She handed me a thin white envelope. Inside, $36 and a sticky note shoes. He blinked. You didn't need to. I needed to feel what paying a debt feels like. She said. Turns out. Lighter. Eli taller. Hair, trying to decide what it wanted to be, hovered in the den doorway with two mugs. Hot chocolate. He said. I did the cinnamon thing you taught me. But not too much. It was too sweet and perfect. We sat on the rug. He told me about the clay turtle from years back. Miss Patel kept it till it got dusty. Then gave it back. He's on my shelf where the light hits around 4. He sounded like a person who had learned to place things where they could be seen. On the second night, Mom and I stood in front of the wall. The house hummed around us. Should I put the photos back up, she asked. All of them. The question arrived a little out of breath. Like it had run from another room. I thought of Rowan's note. The bowl of lemons. The way bite turns sweet if you wait. Only if you want to. I said. But if you do. Keep some spaces. They have a job. She nodded slowly. To remember what it felt like to come home and realize someone was gone. She didn't pick up a hammer right then. She didn't have to. Sometimes not rushing is the repair. Before I left, Dad handed me a plain cardboard box. Inside, wrapped in tissue, was the driver's test photo of Logan and me. I'd once removed from his desk. On the back, in Logan's handwriting, you taught me to parallel park. You also taught me where mirrors belong. Under the photo, a trimmed index card the size of a frame, insert blank. For when you need to leave a space. Dad said. I laughed, surprised by the kindness and the joke. Thanks, I said. I probably will. At the airport, I called Rowan from the gate and described the wall. Some pictures, I said. Some quiet. Sounds like punctuation. She answered. Commas. Not periods. I could hear her kettle clicking off. How's your stomach? Steady, I said. Not empty. Not full. Best kind, she said. Text when you land. Back in my apartment, I set the photo box next to the ceramic bird and the lightning rock. The albums Mom made lived on my shelf. Spines already softened from being opened and closed. I flipped to the page with 12-year-old me. All front teeth and intention. Holding a science fair ribbon like a passport. In the margin, you argued the water up a straw. I smiled because the sentence knew me. I closed the page. Trust, I've learned, isn't a door you fling open. It's hinges you oil. A path you sweep. A threshold you test with your foot before you put your weight on it. Some wounds become weather. You learn to predict they ache when pressure drops. Some heal into scars that pull when it rains. Both tell you where you've been. Both can point you home or warn you off it. Depending on the day. On the first day of the new term, I made a list. Bring lemons. Teach my morning group, the easy for a tired judge trick. Email Eli a reading list with a turtle sticker. Leave 2 spaces on my own bulletin board empty on purpose. I left the apartment. Locked the door. And stepped into a day that didn't owe me anything and might offer something anyway. Somewhere, a living room wall breathed normally. Somewhere, a boy put a clay turtle back on a shelf as the light moved across the room. Somewhere, a woman stood in front of a drawer of frames with her hand on the handle. Not in indecision, but in respect. And here, I walked toward a seminar room full of strangers who might someday learn to tell stories that remember all their people by name,